So we'll continue our presentation of the Part 3 Energy Design Report with an overview of the report itself. Now this report is the first standardized form that can be applied at a provincial level for Part 3 buildings. It's currently in Excel format, and it doesn't change the existing process of submissions, it just adds to it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later when we get to the process section. It's really important to realize that it does not replace an energy modeling report. So when we look at the tool in a slide or two, we'll see that it's just a page and a half of Excel inputs. And so it doesn't go into the level of detail that is required by a full energy modeling report. So those still need to be prepared. And because of that, you actually don't need to seal this Part 3 Energy Design Report. Now, it is, of course, optional for authorities having jurisdiction, or AHJs, to choose to adopt the report or not. It's recommended because it would provide consistency and, for some other reasons we'll be touching on later. But just as a user of the report, even if you're working on a project where perhaps the report isn't required, just consider that you could still complete it and append it to your standard energy modeling report, just so that you're presenting your results in this consistent manner that may be familiar to others who might be reading it. So the intent of the report is to succinctly and clearly summarize step code results for submission to an AHJ. So this is supposed to achieve consistency between projects, across modelers and modeling teams, and also between jurisdictions around the province. And there's an added benefit that the Building Safety Standards Branch will be collecting BC-wide data to inform and improve code. And we'll touch more later on how you can send your information to them. So on the right here, I've got a screenshot for you of the report itself. Again, it's not too long, about a page and a half shown in Excel. I realize the images are really small, but I'm just trying to show you there what the overall length and kind of scope of the report is. And so the white cells are the input cells. So again, you can see there's not too many inputs required there. And as I alluded to before, this is built on previous successful tools, one being the Part 9 report that we mentioned. And then also for those of you who are familiar with the City of Vancouver Zero Emissions Building Plan Energy Checklist, you will see traces of that in this report as well. So the report does include greenhouse gas intensity reporting. This will be non-applicable to some projects, but it does allow for the potential for Vancouver to adopt the report as well, again, providing more consistency across the province. And you should be aware that some jurisdictions are starting to add greenhouse gas intensity requirements to rezoning conditions. So you may be working on a project that has that. So in that case, you can still use this report to report those greenhouse gas intensity results. The report itself is available on the step code website, and it's currently in beta version. So there are some changes anticipated, and we'll be mentioning some as they come up when we go through each section of the report. But the version of the report itself is at the bottom right, so keep an eye on that and just be sure to check in regularly for updates, especially over the next few weeks if you're going to use it, just knowing that some things will be changing as we get more feedback on it. And finally, it's worth noting that this is actually a stand-in until the Provincial Building Energy Reporting Tool, or BERT, is ready. So this is a future online submission tool that is intended to eventually supersede both the Part 3 and Part 9 reports, along with any ASHRAE checklist that may be required. So as you can imagine, this is a big ask. It's been underway for a while and is still in progress. But we're told that Part 3 is anticipated spring of 2021. So until that point, consider this as the compliance tool that we want to use, but it will eventually be outdated. Now the report consists of 7 sections that we've shown in this diagram here. So section A is just kind of basic project info. And then there's 3 sections that we've shown in green for energy requirements. So section B is if you have a portion of the building that's going for step 1 or that has a baseline model. Section C is for any step 2 plus portions of the building. And then section D, there's actually no input required from the user. It just summarizes the information from B and C. Section E is where you enter your model results. So this is going to compare the results with the requirements summarized in section D. And then section F, you're asked for some key model inputs. And finally, section G is basic contact information. So I've just included a screenshot of one of the sections below. That happens to be section C, but I just used that one because it helps us as we discuss a few of the layout techniques that are used. So first of all, cells are formatted based on usage. So input cells are white from row 6 down. So you can see some of those in the screenshot below. And there are different input styles. There's open-ended where you can enter according to your will, and then there's a drop-down menu. There are locked cells, so blue delineates the section. So at the top you can see there is section C, that's a new section marker. Gray is for any sort of supporting information, so entry names, units. Sometimes there's additional explanations for us. There are brown cells, so those are at the right of that screenshot. Those are key results. And then green and red will tell you if your key results pass or fail. And it's worth noting there's also a second tab that provides some climatic data for lookup. So there are also some tips and additional instructions in the notes. So if you see a cell with a little red box over the top right corner, you can hover your mouse over that cell and a note will appear with some additional instructions or maybe references. We'll show you that when we actually open the workbook itself. One of the first pieces of feedback that was received was that the text was getting cut off in some of the columns. So if you're finding that, the easiest thing to do is just zoom in and that will fix it. I noted that a number of the cells are actually locked. So the workbook can be unlocked with no password. So it was only locked to just try to avoid people unintentionally changing formulas. So we do recommend that if you're going to unlock it for some reason, if you had to, I don't know, add an extra row in your results or something, just try to be sure to lock it again to avoid unintentionally changing formulas and messing something up. And finally, there will be a tip sheet coming as well. That will be based on the Q&A from the webinars as well as early feedback received by the BSSB. So if you do have feedback, please send it in. We'll talk about that at the end, and maybe it'll show up on the tip sheet. In the next section, we're going to be diving into the report sections in more detail.